slide there. I will try to be very brief, but it's important also to talk about a new subcable, the first annual subcable between the South American continent and the North African and the African continent, between Angola and Brazil. I have addressed that previously about the ability of subsystems where we operate. We have installed capacity or design capacity of 60 terabytes per second. Then we have SACS with 40 and WACS, which is interlinked to some countries in the western African coast. SACS is ready for service since last September, when we started to design a traffic between the North American continent and the African one with a installed capacity of 40 tera. This is a revolutionary system that will break a internet paradigm between both continents. I have here some examples. And considering São Paulo and Luanda, where we had 300,000 milliseconds latency before. After the SACS implementation, we have around 106 milliseconds, where we can save a great number of milliseconds, important not only to the digital one, but also to the financial market, institutional educations, and so on. Another example, it's São Paulo, from São Paulo to Johannesburg. Before, we had 344 milliseconds after the SACS implementation. Once again, RTT between Johannesburg and São Paulo. And to send a package from Angola to Fortaleza, we had around 350 milliseconds. Now we have around 63. So after the implementation of SACS, that shows a positive impact in the development of Internet. Before, we would fully depend on Europe, but that's no longer the case. Here we have intelligent tools that has been presented in Argentina during LACNIC, where we have two entities. One is cable TV, and then on the right we have a Movcell, which is the second largest wireless operator. So we went from 300 milliseconds to a bottom line of 100,000 milliseconds. From FTTH standpoint or the mobile one. Something happened again for those links coming from Asian countries. Throughout the epic region that reached Angola, and after the implementation of SACS, we went down to 100 milliseconds, which is very significant for any digital business to guarantee infrastructure. So we have 2 slides for some clients, one using the example Brazil, Angola, 2 countries, 2 African countries which speak Portuguese, Portuguese-speaking countries. Until our IP in São Paulo, and we had around 12 ops until we delivered the package from Angola to Brazil. That was before SACS was implemented. There was a stronger reduction and the latency was minimized. Just for your further information, Angola has around 30 million inhabitants. I do not want to compare that to Brazil, but it's still quite interesting. We have a client in Mozambique who sent us some traces, some measurements, and to be able to reach São Paulo, he would have to go all around the world. With 14 options in total to deliver that package from Mozambique to Brazil. After implementing SACS, the client minimized that turnaround in 280. So that represents a significant reduction in terms of information, which improves any sort of business from a digital standpoint and to those who are Portuguese speakers. In the previous panel, game was the topic. Now talking about South Africa. I could not do the 3 of them. The South African community, it goes very much towards gaming and also the finance market. But most of them were clients that were all the time online, and they saw that after the SACS deployment, for some reason, some of the pings would give a preferred route throughout Brazil and not by Europe as they were used to. So we got a good feedback from the game community, that got feedback from the end user that was playing the Fortnite. Fortnite is so popular abroad. So Fortnite is not only a game, but it's nice to see that there are so many people playing that game, and there is such a difference between a server hosted in Europe versus one hosted in Brazil. And to conclude, SACS represents an unprecedented achievement to the internet community between Africa and Brazil. And thanks to everyone's efforts, not only from Angola, but also from Brazil, we managed to implement that subsystem for the first time, and we should be very proud of ourselves to be able to deploy that connection. If you have any questions, or if anyone has the Fortnite IP, I would be glad to get it.
Congratulations, it's very important. Can you share your KMZ with remove my one hat, putting the other one, Network Atlas? Definitely. So people can see it? Yeah, awesome,
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rubens, Darwin tem uma outra pergunta do Rubens. Por favor.
Rubens que o NIC.br.
You have mentioned populations, number of inhabitants in Mozambique and Angola, but do you have any idea about the number of internet users in the African continent? Unfortunately, that proportion is quite low considering their economic status. Yes, well, I haven't got that information. I wish I had searched for that. In Brazil, we have 200 million inhabitants, and we do not have 200 million internet users, right? Okay, so I will search for that information. Sorry about that. I am from Telecom. First of all, congrats for this excellent project. Could you briefly summarize what were your main difficulties or obstacles to put that through? Not only technical problems such as cables and so on, but some legal obstacles in terms of bureaucracy, legislation between the two countries, so this great business could take off, leading to a higher quality not only to Brazilian users, but also to Asian, Europe, and African users that now use this route to reach South and North America. Can you elaborate a little bit more and share with us obstacles and difficulties, or if everything was just a piece of cake? No, thank you so much for your questions. We had followed that project closely, and it was not easy at all. From a technical standpoint, as any project, there is a deadline, a timeline, activities, actions, and steps to be followed. But from a regulatory standpoint, from an administrative perspective, Angola, we didn't know much about Brazil, but now with the great Brazilian team, that process was improved thanks to the Brazilian team's know-how. That project became a reality. Otherwise, that would have been much more difficult to us. Once again, congratulations, great project.